You're a band where friendship and love meet. The band Fleetwood Mac was well known and had a lot of thoughts and secrets. Their music came from their big, seeing lives. What changes did they make that made each song so different? Let's learn about their songs and the people who made it. Early life and career starts for Stevie Nicks. Even though she is now one of the most famous singers in the world, Stevie Nicks wasn't always famous. Her father worked as a truck driver, so she moved around a lot as a kid. She was born in Phoenix, Arizona on May 26, 1948. In the years she was a teen, her family had moved to California, so that's where she would begin her journey to becoming a rock star. Stevie went to San Jose State University, but she wasn't like most of the other students there. Even before she became famous, Stevie had a big dream. She always said that she felt like a rock star inside, even though no one knew her yet. Wearing long, flowing skirts, shawls, and boots, some of the things that would later become her signature style, made her look very sure of herself. She wasn't afraid to be herself. People thought she was an artist long before she sang for millions of people. Stevie knew she was different from other kids when she was a little girl. She was creative, sure of herself, and determined to make the songs she loved. Even while she was in college, she didn't really think about traditional jobs. It was her dream to be a singer, so she worked hard at becoming one. Now, let's talk about Stevie's early musical success. She worked hard and got some help along the way. Her fame didn't just happen overnight. She met Lindsey Buckingham, a very important boy. When Stevie was in high school, they quickly became close because they both liked music. Soon after, they started to sing, write songs, and play music together. They were known as the Buckingham Nicks, which was a combination of their last names. It wasn't easy to play in the band. Lindsey and Stevie had to deal with a lot of problems. They tried to get people to listen to their songs at first, but it was hard. They made a CD, but not many people bought it, so they didn't make much money from it. They sometimes fought just to get food and rent. Stevie didn't give up, though she saw herself in her dreams. Some very important people in the music business were interested in Stevie's singing and skills, even though her first record wasn't a big hit. One of those people was Mick Fleetwood, the drummer for Fleetwood Mac. Fleetwood Mac knew they wanted Lindsey Buckingham when they were looking for new members, but he wouldn't join without Stevie. 1975, a great thing would start. Fleetwood Mac was already a good band, but when Stevie joined, they got even better. The band's sound changed because of her voice and unique style, and soon they were one of the most famous rock bands in the world. A lot of people liked Stevie's first record with Fleetwood Mac. Rhiannon and Landslide are two songs that show off her beautiful singing and creative writing. Stevie Nicks had finally done it. She used to dream as a child that she would become a rock star at San Jose State University. Now she was playing on the biggest stages all over the world. Her skills, confidence, and strong will helped her get past every problem she faced along the way. That's the amazing math that led to Stevie Nicks' rise to fame. Steve Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham during this time, Lindsey Buckingham and Steve Nicks were both in a band together and also in love. They had a unique connection because they were both musicians and worked together to make songs that became famous all over the world. But love and work are never easy, and their stories are full of ups and downs. At first, Stevie and Lindsey couldn't stay apart. They shared songs and hoped to become famous while living together. Their emotional and professional lives were linked in every way. When they agreed to form Buckingham Nicks, it was a big step. They wrote and sang songs from the bottom of their hearts. Their first album didn't sell very well, but it set them up for their ultimate success. It wasn't always easy to work together and be a couple. Their feelings sometimes got in the way of their songs. That did, however, make their songs a little stronger. Their performances showed both the good and bad things about their relationship. Stevie and Lindsey had a great relationship that was different from most because it mixed music and love. Later, Fleetwood Mac showed up. When Stevie and Lindsey joined the band, everything changed. They weren't just playing for themselves, they were part of a bigger group. Their relationship grew from being personal to being important to the story of the band. Rumors, one of the most famous songs of all time, helped Fleetwood Mac become very famous. You may not know this, but Stevie and Lindsey were breaking up while they were making Rumors. They both had a rough time at that time. Think about writing and playing music with someone after a breakup. Some of their most popular songs came from this direction, even though it caused a lot of artistic conflict. Stevie wrote the song Dreams, which is about how they broke up. Her whole heart went into it, and it became one of the band's best songs. Do what you want. The same thing about their breakup, but from his point of view. Fans still like both songs because they are based on real feelings. Even though their feelings were hurting, they turned that pain into music that millions of people would enjoy. You might not have thought they would stop working together after their breakup, but they didn't. While they were in Fleetwood Mac, they kept making songs, even though it was hard. Even though they both loved making music too much to stop, it wasn't always easy to be around each other because of the memories of their old relationship. Although they became closer personally, their singing partnership stayed strong. Because of this, their music was so strong, even though the stress sometimes showed on records or in concerts. Their music was filled with real feelings like love, sadness, anger, and everything else that comes with being human. Their songs could feel fads, which made Fleetwood Mac even more unique. Their music stayed strong, full of feelings and close connections. Even after they split up, there was a short but important relationship between Stevie Nicks and J.D. Souther after her breakup with Lindsey Buckingham. It happened when Fleetwood Mac was at the top of their fame. This time it was with J.D. Souther, a talented musician and songwriter who is known for his work with bands like the Eagles, will win. He came into her life at a time when she needed someone who understood both the emotional and professional things she was going through. Both Nicks and Souther were deeply interested in music, which made the two of them special. When they met, Fleetwood Mac was already on the rise, and Stevie was still going through the effects of her breakup with Lindsey. Souther's company helped her feel better, and their shared love of music made their relationship grow quickly. They hung out, wrote songs, and talked for hours about other things. Stevie felt better when he was with someone who understood the stresses of working in the music business and could also work with him on a more artistic level. Souther did a lot more than just act. He made a big difference in the style and tone of songs from that time. Being with him opened Stevie's mind to new ideas and points of view, especially in the years after the Buckinghams broke up. He helped her deal with the tough world of fame, and he came into Stevie's life at just the right time. For comfort and motivation, J.D. Souther was there. But how did their friendship grow from their normal love of music? Stevie and J.D. became friends because they both loved music. They could talk about writing song tunes and the magic of turning emotions into music for hours on end. There were problems in their relationship. Even so, their shared excitement brought them closer together. The music business was a tough place for women like Stevie, who were often ignored or put under pressure by the male-dominated field. Even though Souther knew a lot about music, he was part of that scene, which hurt the relationship in some ways. Even though Stevie had always been a strong and independent artist, living in a world where men often had the final say on things made her feel pressured sometimes. This was a big part of both her emotional and musical life. She fought hard to keep her voice and artistic freedom, even when she was with Souther, who saw her as an artist. Souther still had a big impact on Stevie's artistic growth, though. Being with him changed the way she thought about music. He told her to get in touch with her feelings more deeply and use them in her songs. During their time together, Stevie could think about her future as a singer and as a woman in the business. One of the most important things G.D. did was write songs. Souther shaped Stevie. He showed her how the ups and downs of life, especially her own problems, could be turned into great music. They could talk about their lives for hours on end, and some of Stevie's later songs came from those talks. One of these songs is After the Glitter Fades. In his song, Stevie talks about how fame can make people feel and what it costs. The sparkle could stand for wealth and fame, but when it goes away, the truth about life and love stays. There is no doubt that Souther had an impact on Stevie's writing style and the themes of this song. Told her she should be honest and open. Even though their relationship was ending, it changed Stevie's songs for good. Souther's work was changing because of how she used music to deal with her feelings. The things she learned from their time together will still affect the work she does in the future. Stevie Souther's lessons changed her singing, but why did they split up? Even though they didn't spend much time together, Stevie and Souther had a close connection. After the breakups that made her sad, Stevie moved on with her personal life with their help, sharing many important events. But it was hard for them to stay together over time because of how hard their jobs were and how bad their personal problems were. The way they broke up caused drama or hurt feelings, not the same. There were years after they broke up when Souther's impact on Stevie's life and music was still felt. Even though they were only together for a short time, the connection was still very important to Stevie. Songs like After the Glitter Fades and others that came after show that Souther had an impact. Stevie was able to use the good and bad times they had together to make something great that her fans could relate to. Even after they split up, Souther's influence on Stevie's songs stayed strong. What would this mean for their next relationship? A troubled relationship with Mick Fleetwood, even though they were both in Fleetwood Mac. Stevie Nicks and Mick Fleetwood had a close, strong relationship that had a big impact on the band's music and how they played together. Mick, Fleetwood Mac's drummer, was first just another member of Stevie's band. Over time, their friendship turned into an affair that they didn't tell anyone about. It had a big impact on both their personal and professional lives. Their relationship was made harder by the fact that Mick Fleetwood was married at the time. Even though Stevie knew what might happen, she couldn't deny how strong their feelings were. The affair started in the midst of a personal fight that was not allowed. At the same time that Christine and John McVie were going through a tough divorce, Stevie had just ended a long-term romance with Lindsey Buckingham. This mental chaos not only made them more excited, but it also made it harder for them to keep their limits in check. Their personal problems made their music more real and powerful by adding to it. What would have changed about the songs they wrote? The relationship had a big impact on Fleetwood Mac's songs, especially when reports were going around. The band's ability to keep their personal problems separate from their music got worse, turning their personal problems into powerful, raw songs. Dreams, The Chain, and Go Your Own Way were all affected by the band's fights with each other. It's one of the most popular records ever. Rumors turned their own pain into songs that people could really connect to. The success of Rumors was both a win and a reminder of how hard things were for them. It not only confirmed Fleetwood Mac's place in rock history, but it also brought attention to the emotional problems each member was going through. The affair between Stevie and Mick made things between them even more complicated in their personal and work lives. Their friendship was getting harder as they had to keep their secret link going and deal with personal problems. Their relationship and its problems changed how they worked together and how their music sounded. What changes did this make to their productivity and creativity? Stevie finally ended the affair because she was worried about how it would affect her mixed-race marriage and her own moral problems. To keep their jobs, they had to stay in the band even after they broke up. This was a turning point that made them be careful with both their personal and business contacts. Stevie and Mick kept working together and being friends, even though they were no longer dating. The fact that they were able to keep working together after they broke up showed how much they respected and cared about Fleetwood Mac. Both of them have thought about their past relationship and are grateful for the lessons they learned and the bond that formed as a result. Their long-term friendship shows how much they respect each other and love singing together. Mick tells Stevie how smart and brave she is, but Stevie usually thinks of Mick as a dear friend who has helped her get through many tough times. The fact that they are still close, even though they have a history together, shows how strong bonds can be, even when people are fighting. The heated love story with Don Henley. There's a love story in the news. Both of them were famous artists in their own right. Don Henley and Stevie Nicks met when Fleetwood Mac and the Eagles were at the top of their game. Their love of music and the stress and pressure of being famous brought them together in what became a passionate relationship. Even though it was short-lived, their relationship left behind sadness and creative collaborations that changed both their music and their personal lives. TV first learned about Don Henley when Fleetwood Mac was at the top of their game. They were in two of the most popular rock bands of the 1970s and often hung out with each other. Both of them thought highly of each other as artists, and the problems they were having in the music business brought them together right away. Like Fleetwood Mac, which was known for both its hit songs and its fights within the group, Henley was the Eagles' drummer and one of their main singers. Their shared experiences made it easy for them to connect on a deeper level. Stevie and Don had a strong bond from the start, driven by their love for each other and their work. But soon, the expectations of the famous people began to hurt the relationship. Both of them were always in the public eye. Supporters and the media watched everything they did very carefully. They were also often apart because of the demands of their music careers, traveling or recording with different bands. This made it hard to keep the relationship's sense of normalcy. As Stevie and Don became more famous, they were put under more stress. What did they do to treat it? One of the worst times in the relationship was when Stevie thought she was pregnant with Don's child. This was a very emotional and personal time for both of them. In conversations, Stevie has been honest about the hard times in that time in her life, and how it changed her as a person and as an artist. Stevie's personal sacrifices had long-lasting effects. How did this influence her songs as well as Don's? Stevie and Don respected one another as artists, even if their relationship took emotional toll on both of them. After they broke up, they stayed close friends and worked on songs and helped each other with their jobs. They were able to make a living even though it was hard. Their shared past did not sever the connection they had created via their music. In interviews, Don Henley has also discussed their relationship considering the hardships they faced and their passions. He has admitted how their time together affected him emotionally as much as professionally. Although their romance did not endure, it had a profound effect on both their lives and shaped their music and career strategy going forward. Their ability to direct their own suffering into their work was one of the constant features of their relationship. Songs reflecting the pain and difficulties Stevie and Don experienced throughout their time together were penned by both. These songs developed into a means for them to express their feelings and share their experiences with the world, therefore allowing their followers to establish closer connections with them. Professional and romantic relationship with Jimmy Iovine through her work with producer Jimmy Iovine. Stevie Nicks, known for her captivating voice and ethereal stage presence with Fleetwood Mac, started a major chapter in both her personal life and professional life. In the late 1970s and early 1980s. This partnership not only changed Nicks' personal career, but it was also a place where she could work with other artists and fall in love. Their friendship, both personal and professional, had a big effect on Nicks' sound and success. Thanks in large part to Jimmy Iovine, Stevie Nicks' first solo record, Belladonna, released in 1981, set the tone for her career. Iovine, a skilled producer known for his work with artists like John Lennon and Tom Petty, had a big impact on the album's mood. Nicks and Iovine worked together in a way that was not only intellectual, but also very personal. It was harder for them to work together creatively because their working relationship quickly turned into a personal one. During this time, Nicks was using her solo work to express her thoughts and feelings, and Iovine's production skills helped her make her idea come true. It was clear that they were creatively connected when they worked together and combined Iovine's creativity with Nicks' unique style. This dynamic not only made Belladonna better, but it also showed how close they were as a couple. How did Stevie and Jimmy's relationship change their work? Iovine had a huge effect on Nicks' music. Their successful collaboration on the record Belladonna stood out as an example of how well they could work together. Edge of 17 was especially important because it showed off Nicks' unique voice and Iovine's skill at making a strong, moving sound. Along with its deep words, the song's famous riff and catchy chorus captured the essence of Nicks' solo work and showed off Iovine's production skills. A duet with Tom Petty called Stop Dragging My Heart Around was another thing that came out of their work together. Keeping up a personal relationship and a well-known work partnership at the same time wasn't easy, and the stress finally showed. Nicks and Iovane's work relationship also got worse as their personal relationship got worse. Their personal lives and work lives were so connected that it was hard to keep a safe space. The emotional ups and downs in their relationship always showed up in their work. When their personal problems got too complicated, they brought them to work. Even with these problems, Nicks and Iovane kept working together for a long time after they got married. They still respected each other professionally, and they dealt with changes in their marriage while still making music. The fact that they were able to keep working together after they broke up showed how much they both loved their jobs and were willing to deal with personal problems in order to reach their professional goals. The sad marriage to Kim Anderson. Kim Anderson's marriage to Stevie Nicks is one of the most moving and sad events in her life. There was a lot of sadness, mixed feelings, and a short marriage that didn't last. This was the time. The story starts with a big and personal loss that changed Nicks' life in a way he didn't expect. Nicks and Robin Anderson had always been good friends, a connection that goes beyond friendship. Robin was happy and sad with Nicks at the same time. She was a big part of her life, so she was more than just a friend. After giving birth to her boy Matthew, Robin lost a very important person in her life. Nicks was devastated by the death of a close friend and by how terrible it made her feel. Nicks realized she was having a hard time with a strong sense of loss and sadness after Robin's death. In order to find comfort and meaning in the pain, she chose to marry Robin's ex-husband, Kim Anderson. This choice was made out of a strong emotional need to honor Robin's memory and help her hurt family. In many ways, Nicks' marriage to Anderson was a bad attempt to give Robin's young son security and to fill the void that Robin's death left. Nicks married Anderson because she was sad and wanted to honor Robin's memory. Could they have dealt with their loss in some other way? Since 1983, Nicks and Kim Anderson were married for a short time, but it was hard on both of them. It was hard for them to keep their life regular after Robin's death, and the emotional weight of that made their marriage fail. Nicks and Anderson had a big rift between them because of personal and business disagreements that put pressure on both sides. Nicks wanted to honor Robin's memory and support by getting married, but it wasn't really because they were deeply in love. This foundation broke easily, and the couple's emotional and professional lives soon ran into each other. Nicks' job requirements and the emotional complexity of their situation made things even harder for them. At first, it was meant to honor Robin's spirit. The marriage quickly fell apart. Grief and loss over Robin's death grew large and cast a shadow over the relationship. Nick and Anderson's marriage ended in divorce after only a few months, and it became clearer that they were not compatible. Nick stayed close to Robin's son Matthew even after her divorce from Kim Anderson. Nicks was his aunt. Because she loved and supported him, she was very important in his life. This ongoing friendship with Matthew brought Nicks comfort and a sense of personal honor for Robin's memory. Nicks has talked about how hard it was on her emotions during her short marriage. She says she did it because she wanted to honor Robin's memory. It was a time of great pain and confusing feelings that finally defined personal conflicts and the difficulties of coping with loss. Even though it was based on strong emotional needs, the marriage to Kim Anderson brought attention to how hard it is to deal with loss and how complicated relationships can be, shaped by a terrible personal loss. Nicks has talked about how her marriage to Henderson changed her life and career in the years since they got married. The lost experience and the problems in her marriage changed her music and the way she felt about relationships for good. Nicks has kept remembering her friend Robin through it all, which she has found helps her channel her feelings into her writing. Still, The Short Marriage to Kim Anderson is a moving example of how a personal tragedy can affect a person's work and love life. This shows the strength to deal with such complicated emotions and the continued strength needed to get over a terrible loss. The great love, Joe Walsh-Stevie Nicks' relationship with Joe Walsh is one of the most interesting parts of her life. Walsh was a major figure in the Nicks' musical and romantic life. He was famous for his work with the Eagles and for his other work. Because they had both been rock stars, they had a strong and life-changing friendship. The two artists, Nicks and Walsh, got together when they were both well-known in the music business. They were very close because they both knew what it was like to be a rock star and how hard and fun it could be. They quickly became close and found comfort in each other as they worked hard at their jobs. Nicks got a lot of ideas from Walsh for their songs. They were passionate, artistic, and inspired by each other. Nicks has said that Walsh wrote some of her best-known songs. The way they worked together was fair and supportive, which made it possible for both of them to grow artistically. Unlike some of her other relationships, this one showed new levels of creativity and respect for each other. A big part of what made Nicks and Walsh's relationship hard and tense was their addiction. How did this change their relationship? Even though they were close, drug problems made it hard for them to be together. Both Nicks and Walsh had problems with addiction, which made things messy and hard. The problems they were having with drugs and alcohol hurt their relationship and caused it to end.